Welcome back to another episode of All Things NBA from A to Z, presented by ballislife.com. I'm Kris Pursiainen here alongside Albert Nguyen and Zak Noble. Welcome, welcome, welcome back. We are deep into the NBA season at this point. We're starting to see storylines take shape. Wemby, top 10 player, top 8 player, maybe. Phoenix Suns, Miami Heat. Ooh, remember when those were the two teams that KD wanted to be traded to because they had everything together and they were on the up, and now they both need to tear it down. Durant and Butler maybe going to be on the out soon, Booker as well. And you take a look at each conference, the heavyweights are starting to establish themselves. Now, every team has questions to answer. Can Boston do it again? Does New York have more than 7 players that Thibodeau trusts? Can Denver really, when everyone's healthy, will that be enough for them? Do they have enough depth? All these contenders have questions to answer, but the three of us are gathered here today to talk about, as of now, January 13th, Monday, 2025, which of the top teams in each conference are contenders and which teams are pretenders. Boys, how we doing?
Good, man. I'll start really quick by saying, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays for everybody who, the last couple months, for those in the Los Angeles area, we are thinking and praying for you guys. Hopefully you guys stay safe. It's crazy what's happening there, but I'm excited for this conversation, Kris and Zak. I do want a couple, I do have a couple feedback items from Kris's intro. One is Kris is always going to have a dig on KD, whether it's Suns, Heat, doesn't matter. And the other thing is he's never going to have a Stephen Curry team part of that dig. He talks about how bad these teams are doing. The Heat, the Suns, both of these teams have better records than the Stephen Curry led Golden State Warriors. So they should be blowing up too, to be honest. But let's start with the West. So we have OKC, we have Memphis. Ja has his game looking good, and Denver, Jokic, who might win his fourth MVP.
I would
The
say I would
Indy,
say I agree to leave Dallas out, and Houston, even though they're the number 2 seed, I agree as well. Unproven, right? Reminds me of OKC
They
last
need a
year.
number one. They need a number one
Unproven.
option to be a serious threat in the playoffs. They're going to be a great regular season team. Their defense is amazing. I love Amin Thompson.
Amin and Tari are so sweet.
Yeah, they're awesome. They got to figure out the Cam Whitmore situation and things like that. But that's a good issue to have. Like you have so many good players that they need to trade. They need to consolidate. But we'll get to a Houston Rockets podcast sometime in the future.
Yeah, I think top three for right now: OKC, Memphis, Denver. Good choices, Al. For the East, we'll start in the West, like Al said. For the East, you guys want to go Cleveland, Boston, New York? I mean,
And that's the
standings.
easy
We'll
three.
just let
Yeah.
the standings dictate that one, I guess. Yeah, Orlando would be nice to include, but they have so many injuries. All right, let's try and make some prognostications, some predictions, some presumptions. Al, you wanted to start out West. We'll start right at the top. The Oklahoma City Thunder, man. Contender or pretender?
Yeah, I think the easy answer here is Contender, right? I mean, they're a top five offense, top five defense. They're doing this without Chet. Shea is the favorite right now to win MVP. I mean, they do have the number one seed, and his numbers are ridiculous. But I'd be a little cautious in, moving forward with OKC. Like if you were gonna bet, you know, who's gonna win the Western Conference, I would probably see a lot more value with some of the other teams. I know OKC is rounding from a age standpoint. They're entering their physical peaks, their primes. This is when they start winning it all. But I don't know, Zach. I'd love to hear your thoughts. There's just something missing for me, and maybe it could just be a down year. Maybe OKC wins it all, and it's somewhat of a down year in the NBA. But I
I
don't.
mean,
They don't have the championship aura, if you will.
oh, I'm
It's
not
like
I'm not Zach, but I will add quickly. If you're talking from a value perspective, I mean, yeah, anyone but the Thunder is a good bet right now because the Thunder are plus 120 to win the Western Conference. Do you know what the next best odds are? It's two teams tied, Timberwolves, Grizzlies, plus 1100.
yeah,
What?
yeah, it's crazy. I
What?
mean, I'll let Zach
What?
This is a good segue to Zach. In a 7 game series, fully healthy, all superstars are playing, I would still take Dallas to win 4 of those 7 games over OKC. Zach, what are your thoughts on the Thunder?
Yeah, I think they're like regular season wise right now. I just think they're in a class of their own. Just because I think they've been the healthiest, even though without Chet, I mean, everybody else has been healthy and they gel well. They're well coached. They've been around um, for many years, and Alex Caruso and Hartenstein are just plug and play guys. So nothing really to worry about there. It's like I just think the West overall, like consistency wise, is down right now, and so it makes these guys look pretty dominant. And with Chet, it would make this team look like a true contender. I really believe that. Like I think they have the pieces right now and are good enough. I think Chet would make up for any woes Jalen Williams would have in the playoffs as the number two, and they've never lost to a team yet that isn't in the playoff picture. I mean, it's pretty gross. Like they've lost to Denver twice, Houston, Golden State, Dallas, and San Antonio. Those are their 6 losses. Like San Antonio is the worst team they lost to, and they keep games close. They show up every night and compete. It's pretty awesome. I mean, and they don't play like I think they play a little different than everybody else. I think there's a lot of variety. It's not just run and gun, a lot of ton of 3-point shooting. I think Shea's mid-range game and the way he can get to the hoop as their best player, I think it's a lot of fun and they're a great team to have as the number one. But yeah, I mean, some of these teams might get more serious come playoff time, but and it's hard to say a team is a real contender when they haven't been to the conference finals. But I mean, from what I'm seeing, yeah, absolutely. I just don't think the West is that competitive right now, and Denver and Dallas are the two teams with that pedigree that are close. So it's just comparing them to them, really.
All right. All right. I hear you. I would go contender for OKC. They're very good. I've watched them play a good deal against the Celtics, the Bucks, the Knicks, the Nuggets. Like I've seen OKC games that make me think they have more solutions to schematic problems than I thought they did. And that's like your guys are saying, without chat. That's pretty impressive. They're very good. Again, I don't know that in the conference finals, assuming they're there, that they beat Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets if they can make a trade or two that really changes the course of their season. I wrote an article for Clutch Points recently proposing Michael Porter Jr., Zeke Naji, Dario Saric, and a first round pick for Kevin Love and for Jimmy Butler. Um, I think that if they made a deal like that, I would be pretty interested in the Nuggets' odds to win the Western Conference or whatever because they look really good right now.
A
Westbrook's been great
Jimmy,
for them.
a Jimmy Butler, Russell Westbrook team would be really, really cool to watch in the playoffs. One reaction to Chris's thoughts on the Thunder is, we know about Shea and J-Dub and Isaiah, but props to guys like Isaiah Joe, Kendrick Williams,
Wiggins,
Wiggins. These guys are filling in.
Kenrich Williams is solid. Wiggins and Joe are like good,
They're
and
they're really
Wiggins.
good. They're winning players, and in a system like that, who are super well coached and well schemed, like you're right, they can win in a variety of ways. And we saw them during that crazy streak where they got down in the first half. They got down in the first 3 quarters and came back furiously in the fourth to
Oh,
get the win.
Thunder Cavs too, the other game recently, and that's the game where Wiggins to me popped so much. The reads he was making just within the half court offense popped so much. He operates offensively at times like a Drew Holiday, like one of these guards that can play out of the post. So pretty cool that OKC has such a great team. Cason Wallace is a name we haven't brought up. He's a big piece of this because he is someone who is really tough as nails. And at the point of attack, he forces teams out of their first action. It's a recipe for playoff success. He's great. OKC contender in my book. Let's keep it moving though. Yes,
The one last crazy stat I wanted to say
go
is
for it.
everybody knows Lou Dort, great, individual defender, perimeter guy, big, strong. Out of the starting lineup, the five guys starting, he has the worst defensive plus minus out of the five. And it's still good. It's still like in the top 10%, but out of the five, he has
Yeah.
the that's how amazing and elite that team defense is. Okay, go ahead.
Where you guys want to go? We'll go to the Memphis Grizzlies.
All right, let's go
Yeah,
to
let's go.
draw.
Let's go to Memphis.
Zach,
Go ahead, Jack.
go ahead and start us off.
They're fun. They're just I don't know, something about them, man. I like Zach Edey growing. I believe in him, and I think he's going to be the probably the biggest factor to if they can actually win more than one round in the playoffs. I truly believe the three guys are probably at their peak if they can keep playing a little better together. I think they're good enough. I'm willing to say that. It's just I don't like their role players enough yet to trust them to be good enough as a whole. I'm definitely calling them a pretender right now, but they're close to me. Like they might have it on paper. Like I said before in the past, like I was willing to call the Mavericks. Um, I don't know who else was it. Houston, I believed in their entire roster to eventually become a contender. I'm just not there on Memphis yet.
So what role players don't do it for you? Because when you think about it, right, they've got Morant, Bane, Smart, Jackson Jr. Then they have Edie and Clark at center, and the guys who play the rest of the minutes, really, I mean, Vince Williams Jr. isn't back from injury yet. Gigi Jackson not back yet, right? So they're still waiting on some bench guys. The guys they do have, Aldama, Huff, and I'm missing people too. They've got so much front court depth. Who is it specifically that you think, okay, no, they're not good enough? Like Laravia or Kennard?
Yeah, it would be the Jalen Wells and Scottie Pippen Jr. for me. I mean, those guys are getting almost 25 minutes each,
Wells is
and
good. Wells is just
no,
like straight up good.
I think they're both good. It's just their fit seems a little odd to me.
They
It's
need Wells. He's the only player on that team who's that big wing archetype. He's the only guy who can
They
guard
do
up
need
like that in the
Wells.
playoffs.
But I kind of agree with Zach. I think he's looking for like an upgrade. Like
right.
those are all good players.
I'd like to see them get Cam Johnson.
Yeah, someone like a Cam Johnson would be great. But my thoughts on the Grizzlies, like any team that's a top 10 defense and top 10 offense is going to be a serious contender, right? So, and we haven't even seen this team fully healthy. I mean, Chet has been out, so OKC, what OKC doing is super, super impressive.
Right.
Um, Cleveland, obviously, they've been healthy as well, so what they're doing is impressive. But we've seen injuries for the Knicks, for the Celtics, for the Nuggets, obviously, and Grizzlies are no different. So I don't know. I think we're only gonna see the Grizzlies improve from here on out. And I also think they're coached by a really good, staff and head coach there where they're gonna understand how to or when to kind of peak at the right time. I don't know. I this is a team where it's a dark horse for me. Not many people are talking about them, even though they're second in the West. But just 2 years ago, they made the conference finals. Obviously, is a lot of luck involved in that run, but that was impressive. Young Ja Morant in that one.
Do you guys think these guys are playing a lot better together? Like, is it obvious to you guys, or is it just they're loaded with talent? Because I think individually, I think they have a ton of talent on this team. I think years in the past, like there was just way too much Ja and Jaren Jackson Jr. ISO ball. That it wasn't that seamless of a fit to me. Um, that looked great, that would get him over the hump.
Well, according to Cleaning the Glass, the lineup of Morant, Bain, Wells, Tripp, and Edie is third in the NBA in differential and point differential this season so far. So, like, I don't know. Doesn't really matter what I think, in my opinion. Like the facts say that they have one of the best lineups in the league when Wells is out there. Um, just efficiency, effectiveness, whatever it is wise. The only two above them, it's actually Nuggets and Clippers lineups. So Harden and Westbrook throwing back the clock.
Hey,
Um,
shout out to the small market teams, man. We're talking about OKC, we're talking about Memphis, and we'll talk about Cleveland in a little bit as well. So
oh
props to
yeah.
them.
Oh yeah. So yeah, no, I think Memphis is good as a team. I think they have a lot of different talent now. You know, they used to hit on draft picks and people were like, "Oh, this is draft Twitter's team." And then they were missing like four out of the eight crucial kind of archetype of players they needed. The value was great, but like it got to a point where they needed to fill some other kind of gaps, and that's what you saw with the Smart trade, which we know was a swing and a miss, just given the fact that they paid first round picks to a team to send them basically Kristaps Porzingis and not get him and to get Marcus Smart. So like that inherently makes it a, a loss for everyone involved in that deal except for Boston. But that aside, Smart's been good as part of their defensive lineups and clearly Wells and I like Scottie Pippen Jr. too. Like those guys are all right. So yeah, I'll say contender because we're assuming that between getting the guys back from injury and or making a trade, they'll, like Al said, be improving throughout. We got one more team. We talked about them a little bit earlier, so we can be quick here. The Denver Nuggets, for me, I'll be very quick. It's the same thing. You know, KCP left. That stinks. Christian Brown has done a nice job of stepping up in his place. But what does that do? It takes Christian Brown away from the bench unit, who they've replaced him with, Russell Westbrook, who's been fantastic. But Aaron Gordon got hurt, so Russell Westbrook had to start, and now the bench unit is left with nobody. If either Russ going back to the bench because Gordon is back somehow fixes their bench unit, it won't because to start the season, it was a problem and everyone was healthy. But if I'm leaving the possibility, or which is what they probably need to do, if they make a trade that allows the bench to not be so barren of offensive creation and of shooting, the players on their bench can either create or shoot. No one can do both. And that's an issue for them. But Peyton Watson is great. Strother's been good. Westbrook's been great. Just go get one more scorer. Can you get Jordan Clarkson? Can you get Colin Sexton? Ooh, there's a name. Yeah, that's all from me on them. Contender.
You're saying that Russell Westbrook can't create?
No, I didn't say that.
Or are you not
I said
considering
everyone
him?
on their bench can either create or shoot. No one can do both.
What if you got a good combo of guys that can do one or the other? I think that's what they have.
Go rewatch like the first 10-ish games of the season for them before Aaron Gordon got hurt. Watch their bench unit try to score and tell me that it's not just like clockwork orange. Like they didn't. It was awful. They lost so many games. Remember the game against the Clippers? I do, where everyone's playing great, and then all of a sudden Jokic sits, and it's like, who the hell let the G League Nuggets team on the court? Like it doesn't work. We've seen it, and so with Russ going back to the bench, he gives them a lot of firepower. He fills in a lot of gaps for that bench unit, but it's Westbrook and Strother and Watson and Saric and they're all just throwing crap at the wall and it's not sticking. That unit doesn't create offense unless Jokic is on the floor with all of them.
No, I love the idea of Jimmy Butler here. I think that would be awesome. I mean, just what the tenacity of him and Russ, and then everything that you just mentioned there. I think Jimmy Butler would be a perfect fit.
I talked about it. I'll link my article below because I think the love part of it is important too.
Yeah, I think they have enough shooting to make up for Jimmy Butler, especially with Kevin Love coming in. Uh, but does Miami do that deal? I don't know. It's a big question. I mean, if they gave up a good first in a couple seconds, yeah, they probably could get something done, but I don't know what player they'd be okay with taking back.
I mean, let's flesh it out, right? Let's talk about it. So, if they trade away Butler to Denver and they get a 2031 first round pick unprotected, they get Michael Porter Jr., they get Zeke Naji, who is, I guess, like a prime Heat culture guy who, they try and bring off the bench, replace Precious Achua, who they drafted in the first round a couple years back. Um, And then Dario Saric is in the deal for salary reasons. I don't know if they would play him at all, especially if they're tearing it down. They'd probably play Ware as much as they can and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I think Miami getting Porter Jr., the pick, that's the real return there. Najee's part of the fun, but you give Hero and Adebayo, I guess, a chance to show what they can do with Porter Jr. out there spacing the floor for them, not a malcontent like Butler is right now, not actively requesting a trade. You give them a chance at retooling. And you can give them the rest of the season if you want. Who cares? Whatever you want to do, whatever Heat culture tells you to do, right? But if you figure out at any point, whether that's March 2025 or May 2025 or January 29th, 2025, that Hero Porter Jr. Adebayo isn't going to do it, well, you've already got the pick from the Butler deal. Now, I'm sure there's a contender out there that would give up some hefty first round picks for Bam Adebayo, like hefty first round picks. And I'm sure there's a contender or a team out there that wants to bet on him as a primary that would give up a lot for Tyler Hero. So you can tear it down real easy. Keep Jovic, keep Jaquez, keep Ware, and keep all your draft picks that you get and tear it down. Like, is that what you guys would do if you were Miami?
I think what we're the discussion we're going towards is Denver, as it's presently constructed, is not good enough to win. So to answer your question for the purposes of this podcast, I think they're a pretender. When they won 2 years ago, I'm looking at dunks and threes. For those who want to look into advanced analytics for teams, dunks and threes is a great site. When they won 2 years ago, they were first in offensive rating. They had like a historic offense with Jokic winning MVP, and they were eighth in defensive rating. You fast forward to this year, they still have a really good offense, seventh.
The
I mean,
defense.
yeah, there's six offenses that are better than them, right? It's not a historic offense anymore, but they are 20th in defensive rating. That is really, really bad. I don't think there's been a team that's won the entire thing being in the bottom third in defense. So for that reason alone, unless they make a trade, whether it's Jimmy Butler or another, wing defender, I don't see the Nuggets being able to stop guys like Shea and Luca and Ant-Man and those guys in the West.
I mean, Russell
Yeah.
Westbrook, man, held Dallas. Everybody.
No.
What Westbrook is doing is awesome. What he and Jokic are doing. I love what Mike Malone said the other night is we're watching history. This is the History Channel. This is truly historic what they're doing. Couple, triple doubles in that now in the same game, but it's more than that. It's people don't realize this is like Russell is on his last legs and what he's doing is super impressive, but it's not enough for a 7 game series against a good coach.
Yeah, I agree, especially when it really slows down and
Well,
you got to really decide who you're going to between Jamal and Russ um, in that stretch there. And I just don't think there's a world where you can empower both of them, and especially Russ to the level he's playing at, and still make Jamal Murray valuable when the playoff slows down a lot. But I personally, all I'm going to say on that trade is I would give up Aaron Gordon instead of Michael Porter Jr.
ooh, for Butler. So
Yep,
then, so then you're
for
making
shooting purposes.
so Butler is like your de facto four. So you're running out Westbrook, Brown, Porter Jr., Butler, Jokic, and
It's
oh,
small.
I'm very intrigued by this. But here's my thing.
You don't have to play Brown and Russ in the starting lineup. You
They
could go
need
like
Aaron Gordon,
Saric.
man. They
Well,
need Aaron.
I didn't put Russ in the starting lineup with that trade. I
They
wouldn't.
need they need AG. They need a defensive monster that AG was 2 years ago, guarding every single position at the top of his game. That's what they need.
Well, first of all, Zach, they can't trade Gordon because of the recently signed thing.
Oh shit.
But other than that, I don't see a world where that salary works either. Porter Jr. making 36 million this year is like very important to how that deal goes
Yeah.
down. You would have to I mean, look, if I included I'm on Fanspo just throwing crap at the wall here, but
Yeah, I just
if
brought it up.
if I do as much as I can to throw salary, that we are still, oh man, we are 11 million off if it's Gordon instead of Porter. So no bueno, doesn't work.
You can't
Um,
throw in
The
a Brown and
the other aspect while you guys are looking that up is the Kevin Love piece. I think ha getting
I
him off
think
the
he'd be a
bench,
great backup
yeah,
for Denver.
getting him off the
Better than
bench
Jordan.
and being able to play alongside Jokic for 5 to 7 minutes a game, I would see Kevin Love's, efficiency go up through the roof. He's still a great shooter. He's still a smart basketball player, and in spurts, he can still, be a good force on the defensive glass for you.
The other thing too is like, this was more of a thing years ago than now, but coaches in general like to have guys that can at least somewhat approximate the play style of their starters when they're coming off the bench. And it's like, obviously no one can approximate Jokic, but Love, plus passing big, can make those full court touchdown passes to Westbrook or Watson or whoever's leaking out in transition. I think Love would be a really effective backup to Jokic in part because of his ability to somewhat simulate or approximate Jokic's play style, and how he makes his impact. So, yeah, I mean, listen, if you're still watching, listening, comment down below. Who says no? Porter Jr., Najee, Saric, a pick to the Heat, Love and Butler to the Nuggets. The Heat would have to waive someone. I think
Wouldn't Miami ask for more picks?
Denver can't give more picks.
That's what I'm saying though. Like,
Who's giving the who's overpaying then? Who's giving
yeah,
them more
no
than
one's gonna overpay for.
MPJ and a first? This is why I did this article, was because if Miami wants to pretend that they're not just tearing it down because Jimmy gave up on them, they can retool around Hero and Adebayo by giving them a floor spacer in Porter. Then when that core is good, they can keep it, build around it. If it's not good, they can easily tear it down. They still have Jovic, Ware, Jaquez on rookie deals. They could trade Jaquez if they want. I'm sure a team like Memphis or I don't know, Charlotte or Orlando would love to have him, but Lakers, yeah,
no
right. But
MPJ in a first definitely gets it done for me, just where they're at culturally with Jimmy Butler. But I think the Warriors could beat it. I think.
Will they though? And we'll talk about
Right.
this soon, but we've seen the Warriors have their toes in the trade discussions. They never get the deal done. We'll be back on All Things NBA from A to Z, presented by Ball is Life. For Albert, for Zach, I'm KP. Thanking you guys for tuning in, for listening. Give a thumbs up, subscribe, 5-star. We'll see you soon.